Hello everyone, welcome to the exhibition of Rozmari Trokkel. My name is Ant Pänhüzen and I'm a curator and an art critic based in Berlin. Today I will tell you a bit about the work of Rozmari Trokkel and also the context in which it was created. Let's first have a look at Rozmari Trokkel as a young artist. We go back to the beginning of the 1980s. Rozmari Trokkel was in her late 20s, early 30s, and she had studied anthropology, mathematics, theology to become a teacher. But then she changed her mind and decided to study art in Cologne. Rozmari Trokkel was not an outgoing person. In a rare interview in 2003 with her friend Isabella Graaf, who founded in 1990 the Cologne art magazine Texte zur Kunst, Rozmari Trokkel explained her situation. Well, I had little space at my disposal. I suffered from a case of agoraphobia that more or less defined my life. For a long time, I could leave my apartment only with great effort. In Cologne at that time, there was a euphoric feeling that something new was just beginning. But because of my condition, I found myself in an artistic vacuum. Such a phobia could be seen as a reaction to those spaces I felt drawn to, but that seemed inaccessible to me. The agoraphobia kept me from developing an artistic vision. I spent my time drawing, which I was good at. Also, I had no idea what it might mean for me to be an artist, since there were no female role models. A little while later, I met Monika Sproet. I had noticed her at a concert at school and started talking to her, and from then on we saw each other a lot. When she told me that she wanted to become an artist, I suggested that we rent a room together and work there. This is where Rozmari Trokkel's success story started. Monika Sproet, here on the left side, decided she was not made to be an artist. Instead, she started up a gallery in their studio and Rozmari Trokkel moved downstairs in the basement. Trokkel had her first solo show in Sproet's gallery. And in the 1990s, Sproet would start working together with Philomeen Magers, here on the right, which would turn into the famous gallery Sproet Magers. Yet, this was not all. At the time, Cologne was the center of European contemporary art, with a thriving art scene driven by galleries. Also, Cologne Art Fair was one of the oldest art fairs of the world. Joseph Beuys, the legendary artist, was not far away in Düsseldorf. And people like, for instance, the painter Maarten Kippenberg chose Cologne as his home. A lock of Kippenberger's hair is present in the painting machine of 1990. You see, Rozmari Trokkel made the brushes with hair that friend artist had donated. Trokkel studied painting at the Cologne Art School, but she never did traditional painting. The machine in the exhibition was used only once to make the 8 canvases that are hanging on the wall. It is quite confusing, a machine that functions only once, and then those unique locks of hair of artists to make a machine. The artist's friends who contributed to the painting machine were international. Especially New York artists did so, like Barbara Kruger, Jenny Holzer, Cindy Sherman, who are by now famous art stars. This is the cover of Eau de Cologne, an art magazine by Rozmari Trokkel and Monika Sproet. It appeared only 3 times, in 1985, 1987 and 1989, and only female artists, gallerists and critics were featured. The second half of the 1980s was also the time that Rozmari Trokkel not only traveled to New York, but also exhibited in the city. She was part of a group exhibition, and she even had a solo show in the project space of MoMA. Monica and I had taken a trip to New York and met a lot of people there. As in Cologne, there was a feeling that something was really beginning. We met Cindy Sherman and Jenny Holzer, whose work we had always wanted to show, and got along so well right from the start that the friendships have lasted to this day. In 1987, Pat Hearn put me in an exhibition with Eva Hesse, Mary Hillman, Annette Lemieux, and Louise Bourgeois. Those were exciting, formative times. I felt drawn more to what was happening in New York. In Cologne, a lot of energy was wasted in power struggles, while in New York, the equal status of women artists seemed much less contested. This is a photo of Sprout and Cindy Sherman at Monica Sprout Gallery in Cologne, 1985. When I opened Monica Sprout Gallery, only very few German gallerists represented women artists. I opened the gallery with Andreas Schulze, and my third show was with Fischli and Weiss. But the gender issue was on my mind the whole time. Historically, it was overdue to support female artists. As you know, I showed Rozmari Trokell, Cindy Sherman, Barbara Kruger, and Jenny Holzer early on, but the offensive, all-female show didn't come until 1985. By the end of the 1980s, Trokell had become an important international artist, who in 1999 would represent Germany as the first female artist at the Venice Biennial. Her trademark were her knitted paintings. Trokell had noticed how female artists in the 1970s and 80s often worked with wool as a material, and how this was often perceived as something negative, as a handicraft instead of contemporary art. What would happen, she had wondered, if instead of oil paint, I use wool to make paintings, so-called low material, to create high art? And what if those are made not by hand, but mechanically with a machine? In the exhibition, there is a knitted painting with a Rorschach test. The Rorschach test was invented in the 1920s and became very popular in psychology in the 1960s. What you see in this ink blot is supposed to say something about your mental state. In this particular Rorschach test, however, you can only see half of the motive, which means that the interpretation is complicated. Trokell depicted various motifs on her knitted paintings. Here you have the kitchen towels. Or even philosophy was knitted. Descartes with his "I think, so I am," combined with the black square of Malevich. But her favorites were patterns of logos, for instance the Playboy bunny or the hammer and sickle, knitted in wool. The meaning of the concept pattern is a model to be followed, copied. These knitted pictures differ from conventional iconography. If I knit a garment or sweater with the hammer and sickle, there is a depreciation of the ideology, bound up in identifying the logos for product propaganda and ideological propaganda. We have talked about models before. In the interview of 2003, Trokell mentioned that as a young artist, she didn't have a female model of what it means to be a woman artist. Yet, there was the role model of Brigitte Bardot, who juggled many roles, not only as an actress, also as an animal activist, and of course, also as a sex symbol. Even early feminists like Marguerite Duras and Simone de Beauvoir were fascinated by Bardot. In a film, Fan Fini of 1993, Trokell interviewed women who then mimicked the actress. It's very interesting that she has this quality of being a model for everything. And yet, she's always deconstructing her own role, even if not always in a very reflective way. The fact of being a model doesn't indicate whether it's a positive model, whether it's good or bad. A model is not straightforward, not so clear. It's made out of circumstances, including your own perspective. There's no model for how to deal with a model. In 1993, Trokkel also made a series of drawings in which she blended the faces of Brigitte Bardot with another BB, Bertolt Brecht, the Weimar era playwright, known for his epic theatre. Blending the features of both icons, their identities start to multiply. Trokkel liked to play around with different forms of models that are to be copied, even with the knitting patterns that she found in women magazines like the German magazine Brigitte. She turns those patterns in amorphous shapes that also have something sexual, don't you think? You see these shapes also returning in her drawings, where they get something phallic. Sometimes they are combined with photographs, like in this constellation. A woman with a blue eye is shown together with drawings of mushrooms, with little extensions. We have by now seen few ways by which Trokkel eludes a firm reading in her work, defies easy classifications, and undermines what is seen as solid and absolute. This interest in deconstructing things, but also constructing something new, breaking down and building up, is literally visualized in a video of Trokkel titled À la mode. The video shows a moth, la motte, eating a hole in a piece of wool. But towards the end, the process is reversed and the hole appears to close again, as if by magic. A work made by moths is also to be seen in the exhibition, here depicted on the right side. Trokkel made cashmere houses for the small animals. They then created diligently the holes. Trokkel studied anthropology, and her interest in the relationship between animals and humans is also central to her work. In her 2012 retrospective, Rozmari Trokkel, A Cosmos, at the New Museum in New York, she exhibited also paintings, but not made by her, but by Tilda, an ape in the Cologne Zoo, who after a life at the circus was retiring there. The monkey interests me as an imitator of human beings, as an imitator, full stop. In 1997, at Documenta 10, Trokkel stirred controversy with her house for pigs and people, created together with the artist Karsten Huller. So this time, not a house for moths, but a house on one side for a family of pigs living there, and on the other side, humans who were visiting. In between was a mirrored glass, so that the humans could look at the pigs, but the pigs were unaware of the humans and could undisturbed live their life. Did this project want to show the pigs in human beings? Trokkel has an interest in unusual materials like wool. She works together with moths, pigs and apes, but we didn't mention yet her fascination with something quite banal, what we can find in every kitchen, the hot plate. She started making these sculptures in the 1980s, first horizontally or with the hot plates on all sides like a speaker, and then vertically, hung on the wall as if it is a painting. If you look from a distance, it seems to be a minimalist painting, and it quite is, made with an industrial material. When you come closer, you discover the hot plate, which suggests the heat that is quite absent from minimalist art, as well as association with the kitchen, like wool, a rather female connotated material. With humor, Trokkel plays around with the minimalist movement. You can see the hot plates in the exhibition in all kinds of variations. They are present in the drawings, but also in the videos. In the video, egg trying to get warm, it might be also that an erotic component is implied. It shows an egg, symbol of fertility, rotating on a hot plate, so fast that it loses shape. The work with the hot plates stands in the tradition of the ready-made, of which Marcel Duchamp was the founder. Here you can see his fountain, a turned upside-down urinal. To finish, let's have a look at a series of drawings. Remember that for Trokkel, drawing was something that gave her comfort, something she was good at. Drawing then also accompanied her throughout her career. In the exhibition there's a series with sleeping men, lying on top of a car or holding a gun. Actually, men are rarely shown asleep in the history of art. It's mostly women who are lying horizontally on the sofa, being amused. When Trokkel represented Germany at the Venice Biennial in 1999, she decided to let people sleep. Isn't sleep the most sensual kind of protest? In the middle of a highly important art event like a biennial? Rozmari Trokell is still active as an artist, and last year, in 2020, she developed this bottle of perfume with her initials. Do you recognize the photo from the exhibition? If you haven't been to the exhibition yet, then I hope you're now inspired to go and have a look for yourself. Enjoy! Bye bye from Berlin.